So today, what I thought of actually sharing a little bit of my experience, experience with respect to digital transformation, innovation, and things like that. And there are a lot of things, lot of hypes going on in multiple places. Technology is evolving every day exponentially, and people tend to find out more technical things and then fit into the use cases of which can be solved and things like that. And when we see all these components and when we find out that there are areas where we can look into, but as we see the technology boiling down to the use cases, there is a gap that always remains. And I'll try to give a 2 to 3 experience that personally I have gone through, and maybe that will be of some kind of an eye opener to you guys also. And you might perhaps be knowing those things, but still there's always this implementation gap, and there are certain things which we take for granted, or we don't even think about those things. So revolving around that, there will be the presentation. Sir, I think the duration is more or less for around, say, the next 40-45 minutes. That will be okay?
30 minutes talk followed by 15 minutes of question answer. That's a format.
No problem. That's okay. So I can share my screen. So so here comes this the digital transformation part of some experiences that I would like to share with you as I have gone through. So I think digital transformation, this is a misnomer at this point of time, with the fact that uh, from stages where we have been doing the IT industry and servicing the clients digitally, we are doing every action. And we like in our earlier days, where we used to actually use those EDPs, the punch cards, we thought that was digital. And then when we shifted to the electronic media and the outlooks and the words of the world, and then we thought that's digital. And then the applications came in, the solutions came in, we thought, yeah, that's also digital. But what actually that we think the digital is, so it's an ensemblance of multiple things that comes across, where we give value. Now value is something which every industry is looking for, or every customer is seeking, or every OEM or offering has to give. So the value, again, the sheer value of it, of the word value, is again is changing day by day. So there are untapped areas, there are modified areas, and there are many unexplored areas that we can talk about on those spots. So when I talk about digital, the Dilbert actually attracts, and I was trying to find out that ultimately what will happen to us. So we are going into the IoTs and the analytics, and it's a kind of only need a monkey to run. Then we're going back from Homo sapiens to the state where we evolved, and maybe we will requiring another one to look at it. So very lightly speaking, I think things are like that. And this another thing that irritates me, I don't know how far will you agree with that, the jargons come in and people invent jargons, and these jargons are actually kind of a FOMO kind of feeling come, that he used a jargon, and what was the jargon all about. So again, these are invariable things that come up, but still from the lighter note to a more kind of more on the depth of the topic itself, what I'm trying to explain and discuss. So this slide basically I've prepared to contextualize the real life events and the real life experiences of what we will be talking about. Now, we all know that these are taken from copybooks, and I believe everybody will be syncing with this. You are knowing about this, that the marginal cost of the digital goods always tend to be zero in the environment of cloud and the abundance of compute powers and things like that, and where we can actually serve by a click, and there are ample social media and things like that. So it eventually tends to zero. But for the traditional goods and services, it will be going up with respect to when we go from the one scale to another scale or diversify and things like that. So having keeping this point of view in mind, we have thought of what's the pricing or the cost might be, and we will talk about that a little bit of that in my experiences, and how that strategically we can position and things like that. Now from that, actually, how we can measure the cost, this is the dilemma that I'm always in still now, that I have a product, I have a platform, I have a service. How much should I charge that particular platform or that service, so that the customer doesn't go away from me and I can get the maximum of the mullah which is on the table to offer. Now, this is an universal dilemma. There are many ways, there are many dipstick elements where we can try to find out how to do this. And again, in the next level, when we see that how to actually lower the cost or increase the value so that we can capture an increased price. So this is an area which is which practically I'm telling you, it's still trial and error, and at the end of the day, it's a kind of a scenario where you have to understand the nerve of the customer when he's going to pay or what he's going to break away from you. So that's one area that I will talk about. The third area, there are multiple values of digital transformation and innovation that is brought on the table, and some do it by scalability, like the Walmarts and the IKEAs of the world. Some do it by unparalleled service, like maybe you can take Apple into account, or maybe some other digital company where the mobiles and the services that can be offered, like Dell. And unique product features, maybe the Coca-Cola recipe or something like that. I don't know whether it can be termed digital or not, but still. So all said and done, if you ask me that what actually is the attribution for this digital era and the digital transformation, I would say it's speed, the turnaround time. So the turnaround time is something which I feel that actually that takes the customer always along with you in the journey, and he doesn't deviate away from you. So while we say speed, that how fast you can turn around, how fast you can capture that particular need of the customer, and how we can go ahead and give him the satisfaction or the delight that he is not even expecting. Now, while we speak of speed, there is a technical depth that we can always tend to incur, and that's acceptable. Like, you need not be 100% perfect to deliver a MVP or the product that you are talking about. So again, so that's one thing that we all should keep in mind. I personally have learned it in a very bad way, and I have gone into multiple things, and then I understood that this is the thing which a customer wants. Something should be on the table, even if it is not fully dressed or not fully, what should I say, window dressing is not done, or some functionalities are missing. So that, in my view, is the most important part of it, of the digital transformation. And the next is the adoption and adaptation. So that's again the stakeholder mapping and who is going to buy it. So having said so, on this particular thing, I will just uh, share my stories that I have on, and they can come back on this particular front. So when we talk about this the speed of a particular thing, or when we talk about, say, your components of pricing, so I will state three stories here. So first story goes with respect to something in what I was doing, an implementation of a digital transformation program in which is called RAPDRP, the Restructured Accelerated Power Reforms Development Program. And I don't know whether you are aware of it or not. And all the states of India were supposed to go through that particular program, and I was in charge of around 22 programs in 13 states across India when I was working with that particular group in TCS, and I was primarily being a domain person or understanding the domain and the technology at par at some points of time. I was in charge of the automation drive. Now, automation drive actually included the gathering of the data automatically from the field, and those field mean actually your multiple devices across the substations, in electrical transformers and things like that. I'm talking about the electricity domain, and where we have to get the data from remote, you have to rely on third-party service providers or the network service providers. Now, the program was defined in a way, and there was nothing wrong in it. We could find the solution and everything and that part of it. So we deployed the pilot project. There were around 130 odd kind of remote sites, and then it functioned absolutely spick and span. We were so glad that within 4 months we could do the project, and we thought that the digital transformation we have achieved so fast that I believe that the people will be so happy for it. And we went on for the UAT sign off and things like that, and then for the entire implementation across 15,000 sites in one particular state. Now, when we started implementing, we went up to from 6,000 to 7,000, and as it touched around 8 to 9,000, we found that there is a sudden drop of data, and it happened overnight. So it was exponentially dropping, like first day 1,000 drop, next day 2,000 drop, and ultimately on 9,000 implementations, we were reduced to 1,500 or 1,600 in the worst possible scenario. And we were completely clueless that why did this thing happen? So again, technical part is something which we need to understand. And again, there is a human part in it also. So when we talked about this and when we found out, we used SIEMs from BSNL and some other network service provider. And we found that SIEMs were not responding. There's nothing wrong in our technology or our implementation, but there is something in the black box of the network service provider, which was perhaps beyond our pay grade to understand, because those areas were uncharted. And as a result of that, there is a problem that is jeopardizing the entire project, because the client will see that the data is available from the remote sites and he can do something with the data. And I can say that I have done it correctly, but it is the fault of someone that data is not coming. It's unacceptable to him, even though that is beyond my purview. We did never factor in that particular uncharted territory that there will be some problem. And as a result of that, the program was on the verge of getting scrapped. So fortunately enough, I did the worst possible thing at that point. I directly wrote to the Ministry of Telecom and the Ministry of Power jointly, both the secretaries, and saying that this is a prestigious project and both of your name will be flourishing if this project goes through. And at some point of time, they both got to the table. We understood what the problem was. The problem was simple, that there is a latching that takes place between the SIM card and the tower, and they retain the handshaking number or the handshaking, the ID, or what can say the key, both in the server point of the BSNL and the server point of our devices. Now, while we were retaining back that key, it was getting refreshed at the BSNL level. And as a result of that, none of the devices were actually read. So this is a technical part that we found out jointly with BSNL. So what's the problem, that how we can solve this problem? So BSNL told it's our policy that we will refresh every device or every data, because we can serve X number of persons in a mobile, and I cannot build up my infrastructure overnight. And by that time, so I asked, why do you need to refresh? The thing remains is that they can serve X number of consumers while the total population holding a mobile is 5x at that point of time. And as a result of that, most of us do not use the mobile 24/7. We only use when it is needed. So at points of time, there are certain areas and certain customers who are actually debarred from that particular service, and unknowingly, we do not even know that particular part. But again, that was a very old kind of a technology. It has advanced from there to digital and 4G. So things are a little bit better now. But at that point of time, they told I have to refresh. I cannot do it, what you are asking. So then I told that, okay, at least for these 15,000 devices in the field, I cannot go again and replace those SIM cards. I cannot do that and do that particular changing because there's a physical thing involved. Then they told, we can't help anything. So tried to work out. We thought that there is something called APN. APN is the Internet Connectivity Access Point name for that particular SIM. So I just suggested off the cuff that, can you do that? You can maintain a second APN for these 1500 SIMs, 15,000 SIMs. Is it possible that that can be done, and you can write a script so that these 15,000 are untouched? So they agreed to that, and it was settled in North Block, and I was so glad that I wrote that particular thing, and the things got resolved. So it was a duration of say 1 to 1.5 years that this happened. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that this is something which is completely unprecedented. We never even factored for this digital transformation. We never thought that this will happen, but this happens. When things happens, you have to be adaptable. You have to actually rise up to that point and understand that what exactly is. And at the end of the day, someone has told that if you do not ask, you are 100% sure to lose it. But if you ask, there is a fair 50% chance that you might get it. So that's it, that I wrote that particular mail to both the ministries. So I thought this is one example that I'm giving in a digital transformation arena, what things happen and how every one fine morning everything can go astray at like that point. The second thing that I would like to mention is that in the same project itself, when we completed this, there was a hindrance that happened in getting the high tension billing go live on SAP. So SAP was the product chosen for this particular transformation program, and they used to do decentralized billing, and they went on to centralize everything in a single data center, and how they can do the entire automation of the data collection from the meters and directly feed into the HD billing system, and they can churn out the bill. So the high tension billing, if just to give a kind of background, 70 to 80% of the revenue of a utility comes from high tension, and you can well understand that how much are these particular bills are important, because these are bulk consumers. They consume a lot, and it's that revenue that mainly the company depends upon. And if there is a day delay in the revenue, you can well understand that the cash flows are all choked up and all other activities are completely going into doldrums. So same thing happened. We did the pilot, we did the transformation, we did the every mapping, migration completed. All the remote centers were connected, they could generate the bill. So we thought of taking, of the total around, there were 3,000 odd consumers for that particular utility. We thought of taking the top 500 going live. And because again, the next 500 or next 1,500 or 2,500, they will come in the sequencing, so that actually we can take the slabs of the consumers who are above, say, 100 megawatt or 50 megawatt or something like that. So fair enough, we did that particular job, and it was a decent job that we did. Migration was done. We burnt midnight oil. Weekends were gone. We did whatever we can to take that going. We took that to live and things like that. And we had a gala ceremony with the director and the CEO of that. We have gone live. There were cakes that were brought, cut out, and flashes and pictures taken. We were so happy that it has gone live. So then I told the IT director who was spearheading this particular project, he was the sponsor, like, when do you want to take the next 1,500 or 1,000 to the go live status of the, or do the migration and take it away from the legacy? So he told, we can see 1 month for this particular billing. We will observe what are the components, and then we can go it to the next level. So I agreed to him, and that's where I committed a mistake. Now I agreed to the person who was my customer, but he was not my user. The user was actually the person who is earning revenue for the company. That 70 to 80% revenue he is generating, he is the director commercial, and he is someone who doesn't even who cares a fig about what IT and what billing and what things are happening. He needs to know that the consumer should pay, and if there is a migration, if there is a delay, he least bothers. And the thing that we did, we never interacted with that particular person because our customer was the IT director. And what happened, you won't believe, in the next month while we were trying to take the migration for the next 1,000, we found that that director has reverted all the bills generated in the earlier stint in the new system, and he has taken it back to the legacy system. And that was supported by the CMD and CEO because they were convinced that the revenue will be at least streamlined, and there is some dilemma which we have to have sorted out all the teething problems before going in here. And then I thought that what a mistake that I had committed. So the stakeholder which we are interacting with is perhaps not the person who is actually calling the shots. That's another thing in digital transformation. Like, everybody wants to live in a place of complacency. They don't want to move until they find a value to move, or are commanded or ordered to move. So that's human nature. We can't help it. And then we went back to the drawing board. It started from scratch, and then it took again 6 months for the entire billing to be brought into SAP, and we interacted with that director himself, and he was the end user, he and his team, and that we did. So long story short, again, like, who is the person who will be using the thing, and who is the person who will be giving the money, and who is the person who is your customer. At this point of time, when we are in TCS, we are perhaps the largest service company in IT across the world. And at that same time, we say that still now, whenever I interact with a CTO or a CIO or a chief data officer, and when they ask for some solutions for their projects and things like that, I always try to find out who is the end customer. Because without that guy buying in, he may be a small fry, but enough to put a spanner in your entire array of things. So that's how it matters, and how fast you can turn around with him is actually that matters. If you can walk the talk with your customer, he feels that he has a skin in the game, and I also bring my skin in the game. Things are even, and we can take the ups and downs in the same stride. That's acceptable. But when we say something, we have cooked something and we have brought it for you, please eat it. Believe me, it can be the best of the dishes, but still it will get rejected 90% of the time. So that's another thought that incident that I thought of sharing with all of you in this particular talk. And again, while we are on this particular digital journey, and now that I am actually doing a couple of strategic initiatives on machine vision, on smart analytics and things like that. So I thought that actually bringing in a little bit of the modern perspective of how the things are shaping and how we are doing it. So once more, I'd like to share my screen. So I was talking about the speed, the adoption and adaptation, and the pricing part of it. Now, pricing part will be more clear in the next example, like how we can actually evaluate a particular speed and how the adoption can be. So this is something which is very close to my heart, and this is the journey which I have walked and dreamed, and I have actually invested neck deep in this particular journey. So this is the machine vision platform for from the TCS side, we name it UVision, and we started that our journey in 2019, sometime in November and December, where actually there is a large network company, network operator in Australia. The name is Endeavour Energy, and the companies who are maintaining the field assets and their inspections and so on and so forth, they normally utilize foot patrol teams on the ground, so inspect the line along the entire length, or they can use helicopters who are a little cash rich. And by helicopters, they take images. And when they take images, obviously, there has to be someone to analyze those images. Now, they came up with a particular problem statement like, can you actually do something with these images? So my question was, well, you are having the best of the things done and things. The problem was, like, they take the images and they need an array of around 80 to 100 guys, skilled guys sitting at the back end, only to understand and interpret the images to say that this particular asset is defective or that particular problem is happening in this thing, please go and replace or repair and things like that. And that is also time taking, and at the result of that, that particular thing is delayed, and they have a capex and opex that's overshooting. So long story short, again, can machine understand the images and take a decision like how much fault or how much decay or how much damage a particular asset is? So then that's the journey that we began with our AIML, or the model training exercise in image analytics. And we took the most complex part of it, like we tried to train the models, and those models can actually identify the assets in a proper manner. So again, it's a paradigm shift from your existing operation set that you are doing. And from there, you are actually going into a complete digital transformation where the image being uploaded in the website or in a particular cloud environment, the machine kicks in and analyzes all the components out of it at the click of a button or in a batch mode overnight, which perhaps would have taken around, say, 3 to 4 days just to analyze that what wrong in it. So the models should be accurate enough to give a near human kind of an identification, if not better. So we tried to do with their images what they shared with us, and again, we did a fantastic job. We prepared multiple models out of that particular thing of identifying the poles, the transformers, the insulators, conductors, and name a thing. There are around 30 to 35 assets that we could identify, and we could tell that what's wrong in it just by looking into the image. The machine, actually, what you need to do is to upload the image, have your cup of coffee, and the results are out. So we thought that this was quite cool. And in fact, while we were interacting with the person who was there, he was tremendously happy. And then he himself evaluated out, like, what is the kind of revenue or what is the kind of savings that it will bring into them. And he, on a very loosely calculated scenario, he found that around 63% of accuracy was getting improved upon the human interpretation. Cost was getting reduced to less than 32%, and it will exponentially increase. The cost will exponentially decrease, sorry, on the new years to come. And the overall resource deployment and other ancillary components, they were getting reduced by around 53%, 52 to 53%. Their calculation, not our calculation. And they actually showed this thing, and there was a good business case. There was a digital transformation, something has never thought about. Ideal platform for a launch of a product and a platform for TCS and maybe Endeavour Energy adopting it. Now, when we gave the proposal of from the pilot stage to the deployment part, they told, who is going to own the models? Now comes the dilemma. We have invested the entire model training exercise, and we developed the models. Our IP was involved in it. We even patented it, and then they are telling that since we have given you the images, it belongs to us. Now, ultimately, it belonged to us because the effort that we have taken, it states that the resourcing, whatever has been given, that is an ancillary component to what IP that we have brought in. Otherwise, the images were already lying from since whatever they have been taken. It is the IP that we brought in that solved this. Now, when this happened and we charged on that IP, we prepared one robust model of pricing and term licensing and things like that, which we communicated that X will be the price. The customer never responded. Then we again went back and told them that what's the problem, what that you are having. So he told that, okay, I'll give you X by 10 or X by 12. And then we thought that we are being cheated. We thought we had an exponential value and we created a value. He was telling that it will not be much as I am conceiving, and so how you can charge so much. There's an eternal dilemma, and he understood that we are having our first customer in him, and as a result of which he is calling the shots. So ultimately what we thought that we cannot stick to a single customer and we need to evolve. We cannot stick to only algorithms. We have to evolve beyond that. And what can be evolved beyond that? We thought of giving some edge analytics, because the capturing of the data is something what's happening in the field. And if there is a guidance to the person who is actually doing the job, that the no blurred image is ingested, or maybe you can actually focus on a particular point in a proper manner, some aids to him so that he can concentrate on it in that particular platform. It makes the image quality a far more better one than what was normally being taken. And then even we shifted left, like what is the protocol of taking the image, how an image should be taken so that it makes good AI ML interpretations. And even beyond that, we went to know that what's the prioritization of inspection process, and that we embedded in the entire solution platform. And on the right hand side, we actually did interpretation and visualization with GIS, geospatial systems, asset management, and it became an entire package. And this package is what we call the platform. So now when we went back to that particular guy, he told that nothing doing, I have recruited a couple of data scientists and they will do the job for us, and things like that. So we told that thank you so much for this opportunity. We have to again end this relationship. And but since that time, since we have got this platform, we got multiple opportunities across the world in multiple places, in North America, in UK, Europe, APAC, and many other places. Even in India also, we are doing a couple of components there, and they are varied in nature. Since we have now a bouquet of services which are completely integrated, yet they can be taken up as single services, we have the opportunity to actually do a flexibility proposition of licensing, term licensing, or a managed service, or pay as you go, or CapEx, OpEx. We try to give all sorts of permutations and combinations because we don't know what that particular user should be liking. And we got, God blessing us, we got an ample opportunity that we are now working upon. After a year, I went back to my first customer, that asking him, why did you not take it? You won't believe what he told. This has become a union problem, and that's why we could not pursue it. So why a union problem? Because that 100 people, 80 to 100 people who were sitting at the back end, when they were acclimatized with this particular solution, they told, where goes our job? So who adopts that particular solution and how someone should adapt to it is the entire scheme of things, despite the fact that it was a marvelous thing, and it is a marvelous thing what we have done. This is one of the best components that we have developed across. No competitors are somewhere near, so I can boast about that. And normally I don't boast much about it, but still I'm doing. So even if that be in place, the value everybody can see. A 21 days exercise is reduced to 2 days exercise. because we are now doing satellite imagery and things like that. Despite that, they could not take the product only because of the fact there is a problem in adoption and adoption. So they thought that the union people thought that their jobs will be going. And as a result of that, that created a turmoil. And obviously, no management or no proprietor or who is running the business needs that thing to happen. And what I understood is that they negotiated with those guys for improvement of productivity, and they committed that they will be more accurate. They will do 2x the job that they were doing every day. And that's how they negotiated within there, and we were left out. We are completely unaware of this particular component. So now when we package the product and we say and we pitch, we say this is an aid to the person who is doing the job. It's not eating your job. And incidentally, we give the examples of the ATMs and the tellers that are needed in the bank. So it's now none of the tellers are actually gone away. The people are sitting, even they have increased. They have diversified the business. Yet the number of ATMs are increasing. So it's a mutual existence part of it, and the value that we can derive out of it and how it goes hand in hand. We never pitched that particular human sentiment when we talked about this particular value. And there we committed that particular mistake. And that's the thing that we now have. I've just given you the link also. So you can look at it, you can see what good job we have done there. So primarily, these are the three components that I thought of actually sharing with you in this short session of how the things are and how the things we have experienced, and going forward, what can help you in some way or the other. So I have been talking for quite a while. I just take a pause there, and if there is anything, any questions or any comments, suggestions, I'm more than happy. I'm all ears.
Yeah, please raise your hand so that he knows who is speaking. Electronically raise your hand so that he knows who is speaking. Otherwise, introduce yourself and then.
Anupam, this is Chandan here, your batchmate, by the way. So team, by the way, I work as a CMO in an AI company, which provides AI underwriting solutions for banks and financial institutions. We do this for so many of our clients, and I guess the last point you talked about, so many feel that their own jobs will be impacted is such a powerful thing. And all the insights you talked about, all the examples you gave, we kind of see it every day. Who the end customer is, who's the user, is there a fear that their own jobs are at stake, and so on. And of course, there is an element of even lethargy in terms of digital adoption. So, Anupam, a great presentation. I think it touches upon everything that we actually face every day. And, each of the points and the examples is spot on. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Chandan. Thanks for your words. Thanks a lot.
So, Anupam, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
In my own experience, digital transformation is more about people and culture rather than technology.
Can't agree more.
Yeah?
Can't agree more. Because
in your experience, do you also feel the same?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the human part of it. If you can touch the nerve, be it a B2B kind of a scenario or a B2C scenario, or maybe your prospects that you are looking in, value is something which can always be replicated in some way or the other, and the people will catch up. What people won't be able to imitate or inculcate in themselves is the DNA of the human touch.
Exactly.
And if we can touch the nerve of the prospect or the customer to the extent that he walks the talk with you, you have already sealed the deal even before it's done.
Yep. Thank you so much.
And other thing that I believe we all the time we discuss is there are two more things along with this human touch from the perspective. One is I repeatedly try to do myself and try to see that the speed or the turnaround time. That turnaround time is something you consider yourself to be on the place where you have lodged a complaint, and by the time that you have the redressal, the delay in the redressal is something which will take you away farther and farther away from that particular product or service. And that's the turnaround time part of it. And the other thing is the 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 value that we are generating, or the value that is getting captured, or that if that particular person should feel the same thing as you are saying. It's not that I've cooked everything for you and I'm giving to you. It will never work in that particular manner. He needs to like that all the golden stages of that awareness and evaluation, and then the action taking place of buying. Sometimes it happens in other ways also. You for the lesser amount of components, like it can happen, you are buying it first and then evaluating it, and then the awareness is that it is a bad product. So all these things said and done, I believe it's the experience sharing and the fastness of to respond to that particular customer is the key to all these components that we have been discussing. And for going in this particular speed, it's okay to have technical depth. So it is not at all necessary that you create that final product and then give it to the customer. Not at all necessary. It always makes the sense if you involve the customer with you along in the journey. He feels that he is actually doing the thing for you. And I have seen people solving your problem and paying you if you do that particular talk with him and walk with him. So that's one experience, again, I can share across whatever I have. Sorry, I've been speaking a lot.
No, thank you so much. Amazing. Thanks.
Any queries from anyone? Good, bad, ugly, what you thought about this? That is also okay. There's always a room for improvement, I believe. So you can be criticizing me, whatever you need.
Anupam, this is Girish Dalvi. I am from.
Hi, Girish.
Hi, yeah. I am from PGPMX batch 11.
Okay.
I have one question regarding the digital skills about the clients, employees who are going to actually use it. So how much importance you give into the training, or getting the users into the understanding of why this thing is there, or whether they have a good amount of digital skills themselves need to improve before they start using the product or start understanding what the service we are going to provide them. Like the case you told about this 80-100 specialist guys, they suddenly felt it's about their jobs. But if they really understand that there could be a chance that they will retain their jobs, but they can improve their skills in a different way.
Yeah, so I think this is a very good question, and training is something which we all need to go through internally, externally, and things like that. And the changing of a customer behavior is the most complex thing that I have felt, that you cannot change it overnight. You can never do it overnight. So what I normally do is that we do some design thinking sessions before even going into the solution. And these design thinking sessions are nothing but sharing the empathy with that particular customer or the users, to be very precise. It's not the customer, it's not the sponsor, it's not the people or the decision maker, or probably not even the CXOs. It's a much lower than that who are actually going to use. So there are cadences that happen. First, it starts with the design thinking part, where he feels himself to be a part of the journey. And I am hearing his problems and trying to solution the things so that those problems are not there. And then when the things develop, in every MVP, we have to minimum viable product that we come across or we build across, say in Agile, because we have to do things fast. We normally 2 to 3 weeks, we come up with one MVP or one solution. So the algorithms that you see for identifying the things and things like that, we turn around the entire thing within, say, maximum 3 to 4 weeks time. And that's done completely in an Agile mode. And we take the user in that journey itself. So he gets informal training. He gets to know how the things are getting developed. And towards the end, there has to be a formal training session where there are a set of trainers. So we choose the best of the lots who are there, and we empower them to train the rest. And then we conduct exercises and see how they are doing and things like that. So all throughout the journey, the training is something that keeps the customer engaged. They feel that their empathy is honored, and the vision that is going forward is now a shared vision. It's not that they are kept aloof. So that is how the training comes in so much of importance, apart from normally understanding that what job they need to do.
Yeah. Thanks, Anupam. Thanks for that elaboration.
We are also running out of time, Anupam, now, so we'll end this meeting formally now. So thank you very much for your talk. It was excellent. In fact, your experience sharing was quite useful for the audience rather than trying to explain what is there in the books. So this is what I think I had exchanged with you also earlier.
Right.
So even though I am not a techie, but I could understand broadly what you're trying to say. I mean, that is credit to you for the way you have presented. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.